Hydroponics is not a new concept. It's actually been around for a really long time, but it's really gaining some steam recently, and this is just an example of kind of what's going on. This is Urban Hydro Project, downtown Nashville. Let's go take a look at the whole scale of it. I'm here with Jeff Orkin of Landscape Solutions, and he started the Urban Hydro Project, and it's this kind of sustainable growing area in this room. Why don't you tell me a little bit about kind of how you got started, when you got started, why you got started?
Yep, so the Urban Hydro Project is a vertical farm in downtown Nashville. We're utilizing 135 square feet of a rooftop utility room that was not being used. I've been a hobby hydroponic grower for several years in my downtown condo, and just have seen the need for more readily supplied local produce year-round, also giving downtown residents the access to be able to walk to their food. So this project was intended to just test out vertical farming in the urban environment.
And how much can you actually produce out of this area?
I've got about 400 plant sites in this area, and we could generate between 40 and 60 heads of lettuce a week,
wow.
if we were doing just lettuce in the room.
Okay, what kind of plants do you grow?
It's mostly herbs and leafy greens. We've experimented with some blooming plants like peppers and tomatoes. Typically we grow those when they're out of season outdoors, and so in the winter we'll grow things like that. The majority of what we have now is lettuces, arugulas, kale, basil,
I guess, yeah, and the turnover rate's a little faster for those too, I guess.
Correct, yeah.
And
from seed to harvest on a head of lettuce, it can take us about between 28 and probably 38 days.
Wow.
So it's
awesome.
Definitely faster.
With the blooming plants, did you have to hand pollinate those?
Actually, believe it or not, this is our pollination device. This is an electric toothbrush. So that's
that's awesome.
That's our bee.
That's your bee, your one bee of the room?
Correct. Right now we've got 4 or 5 different varieties of lettuce. So red and green butter crunch, red and green sweet crisp, red and green oak leaf. We're currently growing a lot of mustard greens. We've teamed up with Jackalope Brewing, and we're brewing a mustard green IPA that will release in September. A lot of what you see now is mustard greens for beer.
That's awesome.
And then we have a lot of basil, Asian green called Mizuna, some kale, and then a few other experimental crops.
And how does the actual process work? Can you show us kind of, you know, the insides of this mechanical system?
So it starts on the floor. We have 2 100-gallon reservoirs that these are filled with water. Our organic nutrient solution gets mixed with the water, and then it's pumped vertical to the top systems. And so in these systems, the water fills up to a certain level, overflows the top system, and then gravity feeds into the next system, which then gravity feeds into the next system. On the bottom, we have these rafts that are floating in the water, and so the plants develop roots in the water, get the nutrients they need, and then the final step is this system overflows back into the reservoirs, and it's just a continuous loop. We still have all of the typical things outdoors. You know, depending on the room environment, it's a little different. So we have greater control over some of the diseases that might come from watering vertically or any of that kind of stuff. In this space, we're controlling the CO2 levels, the humidity, the temperature, and it's all controlled with a digital device that turns systems on and off to be sure that those stay where they need to be.
Show me kind of how you would harvest something with that process.
Sure. So once it is grown in the plot, they literally just pull out of the pot.
Wow.
And then from there, we can take a live root plant to a restaurant or to a consumer. You can also, you know, these will just break off if you wanted to take loose leaf product.
Really? So do you deliver them with the roots on there like that?
Yeah, they stay a lot fresher longer that way.
I'm sure. And how would you, if somebody were to kind of be involved with your project, how would they store something like that? Did they put it in water? Do they just keep it in the fridge?
You can. Actually, we have one of our customers who didn't exactly know what it was, realized the roots were still on it, and so they put it in a cup of water, and every time I see her, she tells me that it just keeps producing more lettuce. So,
wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. We are using a variety of different lighting technologies, and that was intentional for test purposes. So this smaller space is really kind of like an R&D facility for what hopefully will be a large vertical farm here in Nashville. So the majority of the lights are fluorescent lights, which put off a lot less heat, but they still do put off heat. And so we have ventilation fans. We have about 20,000 BTUs of cooling in here to keep the temperatures down. We have systems chilling the water as well to keep the water temperature cool. So it's definitely a constant battle, especially when it's 90 degrees outside.
Sure. If somebody were to want to try, some of your greens, what restaurants would they want to go to?
Sloco in 12th South has been buying a lot of greens to add to their sandwiches. Silly Goose has gotten produce from us in the past as well. Yellow Porch has got some stuff, but the most regular client right now is Sloco.
And do you sell directly to any people?
There's some people in the building that have been getting produce from me. We did a Kickstarter campaign in December, and so several of the supporters from the Kickstarter campaign, that was their reward, was produce. And then we have a couple of test CSA subscribers testing out the CSA model in this application.
So within maybe a year or so, you think you'd want to move to a bigger facility and really start to expand this?
Yep.
And where would somebody go to find out more information on this?
The best place to get us is urbanhydroproject.com. You can also find us on Facebook, search for Urban Hydro Project.